Yo guys, what is going on? Lucky here, and today I'm gonna answer probably one of the most frequently asked questions in the World of Tanks community, and that is, what tier 10 Soviet medium tank is the best? Well, if you want to know the answer to that question, you've clicked on the right video, because today I'm gonna explain to you guys in every single detail what tank is the best and why. So let's get straight into it. So at first you might be wondering, well, what is that on the left of your screen? Well, that is a point system, so we can see at the end what tank is the best. So to start off, let's do a full rundown through the stats of these vehicles. And this is also where the point system comes into place, because I will be splitting all of the stats into 5 different categories, which are, as mentioned on this website, firepower, gun handling, mobility, armor and health, and miscellaneous stats. And for every category I'm gonna give, in this case, 2, 1 or 0 points. 2 of course for the winning tank in the category, 1 point for the second best, and 0 points for the worst one. So in that way you guys can clearly see what tank is eventually the best stat wise. But that's quite enough explaining all that stuff. Now let's really get cracking into the stats of these vehicles. So here we flipping go. To start off, firepower. They all have a very decent DPM. But just to say, 3000 DPM is already very good. I mean, the only tier 10 medium tank that comes close to the 3000 is the STB1. For the further as the Leopard, the E50 all have 2500. So then again, 3000 is already very good. So 140, T62a both have 3033 to be exact, but the 430 has 3128. And you might think, by looking at the numbers, well, that isn't that much, but yeah, it might not be that much, but it's still, you do really notice it in game. Well, at least I do when I play my Object 430. But that's DPM wise, all three very good, but the 430 just shines that little bit more. Then again, you can see that they actually all have pretty similar guns. All the same penetration, the same damage, all have the same module damage, but... And here you see the DPM differences. Rate of fire for the 140 and the T62a is both the same, but the 430 fires 9.78 rounds a minute instead of 9.48. And yeah, it's just 0.3 faster, but yeah, apparently it has that much impact on the DPM. So yeah, very good. So the mixer reload time of the 430, 6.14 seconds, and for the rest 6.33. Then again, caliber, all three 100mm guns. Shell velocity exactly the same, because they fire exactly the same rounds. Then maximum range also exactly the same, as well as the ammo capacity and the potential damage output. So to sum it up, this one is very clear. Of course, the winner and the 2 points go to the Object 430, because simply there is nothing worse firepower wise about the 430. But it only has extra DPM, so yeah, therefore first place Object 430. And then yeah, since the Object 140 and the T62a have exactly identical firepower stats, I just both gotta give them 1 point, because then again they're just exactly the same. So it would be unfair to give one 1 point and the other 0. But moving on to the gun handling, and here we start to see a bit more significant difference. So to start with the aim time. 2.01 for the 140, 2.21 for the 430, and 1.92 for the T62a. So with this, I have to say that the 140's aim time feels very quick as well, because if you look at the stats, it's just only 0.09 seconds slower, which you barely gonna notice in game. But then again, the 430's aim time, 2.21, it also might not look like that much of a difference. But from my experience, in the 430, I really feel that aim time disadvantage over the 140 and the T62a. So, dispersion, 0.34 for the 140, very good. 0.36 for the 430, that's meh, it's still okay, it's not amazing. But 0.33, and again, best in class for the T62a. And same story with the aim time. For the T62a and the 140, I didn't notice any actually differences with the dispersion, because it's only 0.01 difference. But with the 430, again, I really did notice it. And yeah, the gun for the 430, I don't know, the handling just feels kind of sloppy to me. So yeah, here we continue on to the dispersion while moving, which is a very amazing 0.08 for the 140. That is just simply incredible. You can just pull off some on-the-move shots like no other tank in the game. I think it's just crazy. And then if you go to the 430, yeah, 0.13, yeah. I think you guys already see where I'm going, right? The gun handling of the 430 isn't that great compared to its two brothers. But still, 0.13, yeah, it's not entirely shit, it also isn't good. It's just meh, you know, just meh. The T62a 0.10 is okay, it's, as you can see, it's kind of in between. But again, exactly the same story with aim time and dispersion. But instead of what I said for the aim time and dispersion between these two, I did notice a difference with the dispersion on the move in compared to the Object 140 and the T62a, weirdly enough. Which, yeah, I don't know. I don't know, I think it's just me, but yeah, I really did notice a difference. But again, for the 430, a massive difference. I noticed that difference is just massive for me. Although the numbers might seem small, but hey. Turret reverse, 0.10 for the 140, 0.12 for the 430, and 0.08 for the T62a. Dispersion while turning the turret. Which is, yeah, actually, from all these dispersion stats, the while turning the turret, I actually don't really feel like it, because with these tanks, you aren't really sniping that much. You're, most of the times when you're firing, because the Russian medium tanks are just full straight out brawlers. They don't snipe like Leopards and E50s do, because most of the times you're on the move, so that makes these stats pretty important. But for the turret reverse, I didn't really seem to notice any difference between the three, which is kind of weird because I did with the other two. Then dispersion after firing for the 430 and 140 is exactly the same. T62a is just slightly better, but then again, I didn't really notice a difference. And then the damage, well, yeah, I don't know. Nobody really cares about that, but hey, it's there. It's just exactly the same, so nothing to be better or worse about. And then gun elevation, both 17 for the 62a and the 140, but the 430 is just a very slightly degrees worse. So yet again, you're barely gonna notice in the metal. But here, and this is for me the massive turning point of the Object 140, because look at that, 6 degrees of gun depression, while the other two have just 5. And now, call me crazy, but that 6 degrees of gun depression feels a heck a lot more flexible than that 5 degrees of gun depression. I don't know, it's just only 1 degree, but that 1 degree makes such an enormous difference with working ridge lines on hilly maps. So definitely big thumbs up for the 140 according to gun depression. And then gun traverse, they both have turrets, they both turn around fully, so exactly the same. So gun handling wise, for me the 2 points go to the Object 140. But now hold on a minute before you go crazy like, oh, the T60 have so much better stats. Hear me out. So the T62a is better with the aim time and dispersion, as we already said. But I just feel like, as I already mentioned before, Russian mediums are pretty much always in action, always on the move if you play them right in the face of the enemy. And I think that these 3 stats are so much more important than those two. I think those 2 stats are more for sniping mediums, and these 3 are more from those active brawling mediums, which these 3 tanks obviously are made for. So with that in mind, the Object 140 gets the 2 points for me. Then at second, the T62a gets 1 point. And of course, the worst, yeah, you could have already guessed it, the Object 430. But yeah, you can probably see why. So then we go to the next category, which is mobility. And these tanks are very similar in mobility wise. So let's just start off. Forward speed, 55 for the 140, 55 for the 430, and 50 for the 62a. So yeah, those 5 kilometers per hour faster are really nice. I do really notice the difference in the battlefield. Then reverse speed, exactly the same. Engine power, also exactly the same. But here comes the weight. 62a is the heaviest, followed up by the 140, and the 430 is the lightest. But these are only slight weight differences, so the horsepower to ton ratio isn't going to vary that much. And honestly, acceleration wise, they feel exactly the same for me in game. So I don't really feel like one is significantly slower or one is significantly faster. So the terrain resistances, the T62a has the best ones, as you can see right here, followed up by the 140 and the 430. But this, I really do notice a difference, especially on soft terrain. I feel the T62a is way more maneuverable in swamp maps. But then again, on hard and medium terrain, I don't really seem to notice that big of a difference. It's mainly on soft terrain. Then turret reverse, only the T62a has 9 degrees extra, which I do notice, but yeah, 41 is also very, very fast, so yeah, it's not that important in my opinion. Then tank reverse, T62a again the best, followed up by 140 and 430. And yet again, yeah, T62a might have the better traverse, but then again, 54 degrees a second is also pretty damn fast. So for me, again, not that of an important stat to compare them about. And then effective, yeah, I don't know, I think there's something new, but I don't really know much about these stats, so I'm just gonna skip them for now. Sorry, don't get butthurt if I skip something important. But I actually have never seen these stats before on Tanks GG, so yeah, I have nothing really much to say about it because I simply don't know what it's about. I'm sorry guys. So mobility wise, definitely this has to go to the T62a, but yet again, as I said before, these three tanks mobility wise feel very, very similar. So it's only those slight differences. But yeah, slight differences also count, so 2 points for the T62a, 1 for the 140, and again 0 for the 430. But now we get to probably one of the most interesting categories, which is armor and health. So the Epic 430 really shines in this. It has 20mm extra on the front, which makes the effective value quite a bit more. But we'll see it in just a second when we take a look to the 3D model. Side armor is exactly the same. Rear armor 140 and 6 slightly more, but yeah, it's the rear. Pretty much anyone can penetrate it. Then turret armor. These three tanks have very, very incredible turrets. If you go hold down with them, you really start bouncing off shots from Yak Panzer E100s and stuff. It's just crazy. But you'll see that in more detail when we take a look at the 3D models in just a second. Then again, track armor, 5mm less on the 430, so meh, track armor, yeah, not that important. Then health, 430 has the most health, followed up by the 62a and the 140. But yet again, the difference is only 100 or 50 HP, so yeah, it could save you sometimes, but then again, not that huge. Engine health, exactly the same, track health, a bit more on the 430. And ammo rack health also a bit more on the 430, so this is actually a stat that I do really notice in battle, because I have had way more ammo racks in the 62a and the 140 than in the 430, so big thumbs up for the 430 because of the extra ammo rack health. I really did notice it. So now you might have seen, yeah, armor on paper, yeah, cool. But now let's go a little bit more in depth and take a look at the 3D models. So at first, this is a 3D model of the Object 140. I've put it on live mode so you can see the effective values also with angling and stuff like that. So at first, take a look at the hull. It's, let's see, 200. Yeah, a bit more on the low plate, but mainly about 200. So basically, most of the tier 8 tanks have no problem panning it on the front of the hull. So nothing really special about that. But if we take a look at the turret, look at that. 1000, 100 with the auto ricochet. See right here, 600, 400. It's basically Bounce City if you go hold down on this thing. But this is not the only tank that has it. I mean, the 62A and the 430 have it as well. But there's one key difference where the T62A shines a lot more than the other two. And that is this sucker over here. Look at that, 30mm of roof armor. This means that it can get overmatched really easily by 91mm guns and higher. So I did really notice that a lot. So I got panned a whole lot of times in the roof. Because most of the, especially heavy tanks, for example a Type 5 heavier on mouse, are very high. So if you are that heavy tank, you're basically looking to this about right here. And look how big of a target that is. I mean, it's very easy to hit, especially if you're face hogging with the heavy. So you don't even need to aim for these cupolas, just shoot it right here and you go fly straight through. So yeah, that's actually a bit of a downside on the 430 and the 140. But for the further as, very strong turret, very nice. Let's take a look at the 430's armor. So here is the Object 430, and straight away you see a big difference on the hull. Take a look at this. The Object 430 has a very unique hull armor angle thing, if I can call it like that. But anyway, the armor on these points are very good because they're very well angled. So let's actually switch real quickly to the visual model so you can see how it looks like. Basically out of these two plates, I mean, they're angled so steeply that pretty much everything is gonna bounce on them. And if we take a look back at the live model, that's a fairly decent amount of the whole armor. So the enemy just has to be a little bit unlucky with where their shots go and it can just bounce straight off these two sides. So that's a very good thing about the 430. So then again, turret wise, the components are a bit thinner than the 140, which is always nice. But yeah, we have this little sucker again. Look at that, the roof. You can just overmatch it with any 91mm gun or above. It's just so annoying when you're face hogging higher heavies like the mouse of the Type 5. So yeah, that's just one of the biggest downsides of the Russian mediums in my opinion. But now it comes. If we take a look at the T62a, you might see, oh wow, the hull. Let's see, 170, 200 low plate. That's actually the worst of the three. But we take a look at the turret. Look, that's still pretty strong, but hey, where is the weak roof gone? Look at that. And that is just the biggest plus of the T62a in my opinion, and that is that it doesn't have that very weak roof. So if I were face hogging the mouse right now, he had no hope in penning my roof because it would simply ricochet straight off. So the only hope he had is basically trying to shoot through the commander hatch, which is still quite tricky because you still have to get quite lucky with your angles. So that's basically the Armour models live of these three things. I could show you a lot more with angling involved and stuff, but I don't think it's that irrelevant because the turret you can't angle them pretty much, and the hull, yeah, I can show you real quick. If you angle the hull right here, it doesn't become that much stronger except for the low plate. So we'll do real quick, and here yet again this actually becomes quite a bit stronger if you angle it. Look at that, 150. I didn't really notice that. So yeah, that's quite cool. If you angle it like this, if I angle the T62a, yeah, this T62a is not really meant for angling because you can shoot straight through the hole still. Low plate still became a little bit tricky, but oh well. Just shoot it here, you should be fine. So those were pretty much all you need to know about the armor of these three tanks. So, armor wise, I have to give the 2 points to the 430 simply because it's the most effective when angled. I mean, 250, you don't see that on the other two, so that's just a big nice bonus of the 430. And yeah, the weak roof, yeah, 140 has it as well. T62a hasn't got it, which by the way we also are now at a second pick, which get the 1 point. That's the T62a, because the holes of these two, of the 140 and the T62a, are quite similar. The only difference is that the T62a doesn't have the weak point on the turret, so therefore T62a is second place, so get 1 point. And at last the Object 140 with 0 points. So now we get to the last and final category of this video, which is the miscellaneous stats, which we can do pretty quickly. I mean, view range, they have exactly the same. Radio range, the same for the 140 and 430. The T62a has a way better radio actually. Oh well, 761 is still pretty good for tier 10. Then the 430 and T62a have 2% less chance to be set on fire, which is also really nice. So you might be a bit more comfortable picking premium food in these two instead of the 140. And then shell cost, since they all have the same gun, it's exactly the same. So miscellaneous wise, yeah, it's not that significant, but I have to give the 2 points to the T62a. I have to give 1 point to the 430, and the last place, the 0 points to the 140. So here we are at the conclusion of the video. So as you guys can clearly see, statistic wise the T62a is the best, followed up by the Object 430 at second place, and at last the Object 140. But making the right choice on what tank to go for first really depends the most on your playstyle. So in short, if you like to be always on the move, flanking your enemies and working ridge lines, you should go for the Object 140. But if you like to be a big damage dealer with awesome frontal armor and you don't mind having sloppy gun handling, you should go for the Object 430. Or if you like to go hull down and bounce every single shot off your turret while still dealing consistent amount of damage and play more like a medium range sniper, you should go for the T62a. So with that in mind, in my opinion, I would put the Object 140 on number 1, followed by the Object 430 at number 2, and at last the T62a at number 3 because of the previously mentioned reason. So I hope this video gave you a clear insight on what these tanks are all about, and I hope it helped you to decide what tank to go for. So if you find this helpful, please drop a like, I would highly appreciate it. Also, if you're new, please subscribe to my channel so you won't miss out any of my videos. So yet again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys later.